Welcome back. I am so excited that you have joined me again in the Aligned Womb, Aligned You podcast. I'm Kate Nagai, and I am your host and womb guide on this journey. I'm here to help you to lean into the language of your menstrual cycle so that you can align yourself and awaken and activate to your womb wisdom to live the most inspired life. I am so excited to jump into this episode and to dive into today's topic. So let's get started. Welcome back to this week on the podcast. This week, I want to dive into a current experience that I am navigating in my life. And I have been for a few months, but I haven't really spoke openly about it. Perhaps you may have noticed that I haven't been as present in my business, in online, in my personal life as maybe I have historically or how I have been living my life. I hit this point in my life a few months ago. It was probably late May, where I just felt heavy with everything. I just felt like meeting the daily to-dos and the tasks that were required, I wasn't motivated for. I didn't feel like I was feeling those sparks or those peaks of that ovulation energy that I crave during ovulation. And I was just, I wouldn't say I was feeling overwhelmed. I was just feeling blah in life. And one thing that MCA, which is menstrual cycle awareness, has taught me is to really be in this place of accepting rest and to seeing the value in rest. I think before I was in the world of menstrual cycle awareness, before I was teaching this and guiding women on this, I felt guilty about rest. I felt guilty about having lazy days. I always felt like I needed to be achieving or doing or hustling. And one thing that menstrual cycle awareness has really brought to the forefront for me is learning how to be in that silence, how to be in that pause, and how much my body actually needs it. I really don't know how I could be functioning in my life as a mom of 3, as an entrepreneur, as a wife, as a mom to 2 fur babies, how I could really be in this place where I felt fulfilled if I didn't understand the importance of rest. And so menstrual cycle awareness has really always helped me lean into my bleed days, take rest when needed, to, isolate during my inner fall when I'm feeling really edgy and I just feel really, I don't want to say overwhelmed, but oversensitive to my surroundings, to my sensations in my body, to sensory. And so I can lean into this idea of rest. But one thing that has happened with working with Kate Northrup over the last, I want to say 3 years, is she was the first person to teach me to reflect upon my business, but also I would say my life in looking at these 4 seasons. So with menstrual cycle awareness, we learn the 4 different phases of our cycle, and we learn like the superpowers of each of those phases. And we also learn about the shadow sides of each of those phases. But this work that Kate had introduced me to was, and I think her lens was more around business, but I just apply it to my general life as well, which I'm sure she would agree with, is that these 4 phases that we become so connected to, that we're in an intrinsic dance every cycle of our maturing years from puberty to menopause, is we learn this rhythm, we feel this cycle. So we're familiar with feeling these 4 different phases. And these 4 different phases can play out in the bigger life scheme of our life as well, or in our business. Meaning that just like how we have an inner spring in our body where we are feeling like we are coming out of the darkness, where we might be feeling like that heightened energy, where this is excitement with all these blooming ideas, we can have that in our business and in our personal life. There's times in our life where we're going to go through the season of spring, maybe for a longer duration. Maybe this is where like we really think, okay, I have this great launch, this great idea, or maybe it's like I have this big family vacation or reunion that I'm planning, and all your energy and excitement goes into it, and you feel stimulated by it. You feel you have the energy to meet the demand of what you're putting out into the world. And then we have like our inner summer season, right? Like our menstrual cycle, that inner summer, that ovulatory phase of our cycle is really about connection and nurturing and really being visible and seen. And so there are times in our business and times in our life where either we feel this pull to really be out in the world and be visible, and we're doing all the things, and we're public speaking, or we're maybe caretaking for one of our parents, or, we're really showing up in this energy. And we know that it is to a season and that it will pass. And then from that inner summer, we move into the inner fall. So the inner fall of our menstrual cycle is that PMS phase, that time where we really want to tune into what our needs are. We go from being very outward to being inward. We're tuning ourselves to our needs, to refining our ideas, to completing tasks, to getting stuff done, getting shit done in our life. And that's what can sometimes happen in these bigger phases of either our business or in our life cycle. And then we have the inner winter, our bleed days. And this is when we rest, we reflect, we maybe ponder the bigger questions, but we kind of navigate this place of stillness and of letting go. And that's where I've been right now. I've been in this bigger life cycle of inner winter. And, Kate Northrup would talk a lot about how, like, in your business, there's going to be a time where all of a sudden that you have to like go out and pitch your ideas. Like, well, first you come up with the idea of what it is that you want. It's like, I've had this product. I really want to put it together. I want to like put it out to market, or I want to launch something. So you do all this behind the scenes work of getting everything ready for the launch. And then we go, and that might take a month, 2 months, 3 months, might be quarterly. And then we go into this launch phase where now we're out there and we know that it's going to be exhausting. We know that we're going to wear ourselves down, but we push, and we get all this stuff out into the world. We get our ideas out there. We're showing up on social media every day. We're sending emails every day. We're really pushing ourselves out there. And then after a launch, if anyone is an entrepreneur and has done a launch, I feel this hugely, is the come down crash after the launch of like, oh my God, how did I do that? Like, how did I go for 3 or 4 weeks straight of just nonstop being totally engrossed in my business? And then you have to like step back. And this is when you often analyze the numbers. It's like, well, how many people did we sell to? What was our revenue? What was our cost? Like you go through with a fine tooth comb and you look at all the data, right? You spend time just kind of like finishing up the process. Maybe it's that you're getting the product now into the people's hands. And then after that, you usually crash, and you usually need to take some time just to like be, and no expectations. And so right now, not that I've been in a big launch, but this last, 10 months, well, almost a year, let's say almost a year now, almost a year ago, I joined a year coaching program where I was being coached on how to shift and change my business. So many powerful ideas came out of that. I let go of programs. I said goodbye to some students that I'd been working with because I was closing down those products. And then I was dreaming up of what it was that I actually wanted to put out in the world. Letting go of old chapters of what I had been teaching and who I was. If you're part of my fertility program, you knew that. If you're part of my sisterhood program, you knew that. I was letting go of all of these things because there was something bigger and something that was growing in me that wanted to be birthed out into the world. And so I started doing the legwork of all this stuff. And in the meantime, I also joined a certifiable coaching program on menstrual cycle awareness. I really felt like I've been on the fence for years about this training, and there was just something that it was divine timing. And I was like, you know what? This is the time that I'm supposed to take this training. There's got to be a nugget of information that I didn't know about that I haven't been teaching. I'm sure I'm going to get something out of it. So I invested in that. It's been life-changing and so amazing. Such a great course. And then I also joined Kate Northrup's Relax Money course as well. So there's like nothing bigger than having 3 different big wheels going in your life, of personal development, of business development, and of just advancing your skill set, right? And so I've been super busy since last September. And in May, it just hit me like this wave of being like, and it wasn't that I wanted to throw away my business. It wasn't like I didn't want to work anymore, but there was this deep desire in me of pausing. I wanted to pause. And if anybody out there is a business owner, you will know that there's always this lagging fear in the back of your head. There's always these people out there that will tell you that you can't take a break, because if you take a break, you're going to lose your audience. You're going to, lose traction on Instagram. You're going to dip in your numbers on your podcast episodes. There's so many things that people say. But the beautiful thing, and I think this is what keeps us trapped in hustle culture, is knowing this. And so we're like, no, we just have to push through. And this goes beyond just entrepreneurs. I think anybody in their business, that work for somebody, there's these episodes where you feel really inspired in your work. And then there's times in your work where you just feel like, I can't do another day of this. And usually, I shouldn't say usually, sometimes we snap out of it. Sometimes it is that it's just this inner winter phase of our life that we need to slow it down. We don't actually want to be the one noticed. We don't actually want to be the achiever. We don't actually want to be the one that's having to travel all the time for the company we work for, like whatever the case might be. And that's where I hit in May. I hit this. And if I didn't know, or if I wasn't attuning my body all the time and attuning my life to the rhythms of my menstrual cycle, there is probably a chance that I would have kept pushing and just ignored this deep pulsation in my body asking me to rest. And I would have burnt myself out. Realistically, I would have burnt myself out. And I seen the writing on the wall. I was already starting to snap at my kids for a lot of things. I was dreading taking them to dance. I was dreading the end of the year and all the things that come with end of the year, all the hustle that comes with that. And there was just this deep, deep craving inside of me of just wanting to not just rest, but wanting to play with my children, wanting to be present with my children. So as much as I call this my inner winter season that I've been in for the past few months, this playfulness isn't ovulation pay. It's not that high excitement, like I'm just vibrant and I want to be seen. This is medicinal play, is what I like to call it. Medicinal play. I like that. Because it feels like in these moments where I'm going slower, I'm intentionally choosing the activities I want to do. And I'm intentionally choosing to show up for my children in a very interactive way while still honoring rest, while still honoring my internal rhythm of my menstrual cycle. But there's just this low motivation to produce. There's this low motivation to do what you should be doing, being the good girl or the good entrepreneur. There's just this no care. And the beautiful thing about it is I'm not worried. And I think that's where I've seen like this huge shift in my body, because I've gone through these inner winter phases before where I've taken a few months off of my business and I felt guilty and I stressed and worried about how it was going to impact me. But instead, there's been this beautiful letting go of just knowing that all will be okay, because I'm tending to the winter of my life. I am tending to this very delicate time with my children on summer vacation and making memories. I am tending to, clearing and letting go of things in my home, in the sense of I am right now in purge mode, of just wanting to get rid of things that we no longer use or that are taking up space but don't resonate with who we are anymore. Like, why are we keeping items in our home that we haven't looked at in 10 years, besides memory books? Those I'll never get rid of. But like, really reflecting about, why do we have all this stuff? And so there's just this space in me right now that is moving slow, has released all expectation, and is just taking in the moments of what the stillness can really provide me. And I think when we do this, this allows us to begin to look at our life in a way that gives us permission to run our life through the lens of feminine energy, of knowing that there is a season for everything. There's a time for everything. And I'm going to come out of this and I'm going to be feeling so replenished that I will be able to pursue and to do all the things. And I'll probably have a lot of growth because I'm coming into this new frame in my life with more energy, with more awareness, with more creativity, with more inner knowing, with more alignment. And so sometimes when we take this time away, it can be our greatest gift to come home to who it is that we truly are desiring to be in this lifetime. Because it's very easy for us to get caught up into the cultural rhetoric of who we should be, what we should be achieving, how hard we should be working, how we should maintain our health, how we should parent. There's all these how we should. And, I had a teacher that always said that we should on ourselves too much. And it's so true in this culture. We just keep layering on all the things that we're supposed to do. And we slowly become a robot in our life versus perfectly or purely aligned. I wouldn't say perfectly, purely aligned with who it is that our deep inner soul or our inner knowing is calling us to be. And so, with all this being said, if you're wondering where the hell I have been on this little hiatus where every now and then you'll see me pop up on social media with some kind of thing because it felt aligned to share it. I've done a few podcast episodes, but if you've noticed, I've gone a few weeks without doing one, and I've let go of the guilt of that, of not staying consistent. I apologize deeply to all those on my newsletter because it's been like once a month you're getting some information from me versus on a weekly basis. I really wish that I had the energy to be able to release weekly womb wisdom tips, but I'm at this place where I just have really embraced knowing that there is medicine in me stepping back temporarily. And I think that it's actually perfectly aligned when I think about it, because this was all happening as everything in my business was coming to a close. I launched the Last Fertile program and it was wrapping up. I closed down the sisterhood, and this fall I have some beautiful stuff coming out. I am so excited. I have what I think right now, I'm still sitting with it. I'm still allowing the feminine to run through me, and for the creativity and this pull of really crafting what I want to put out in the world. But I think it's going to be a year-long program for people who really want to go deep into learning how to attune to their hormones, understand their body, and start to really define the life that they want to live by coming home to their menstrual cycle, starting to understand the superpowers of it. And then as we understand these basics and understands the transitions in life, like perimenopause and menopause, how we can still apply these principles and put them towards cycle syncing our life in a way that nourishes us and keeps us from depleting, keeps us from shoulding on ourselves, keeps us from being in this place where we lose who we are, giving ourselves permission to fall into perhaps a deeper inner winter for a few months like I have. So I'm feeling the energy rising. It's really interesting. I can feel this little spark of like what's next in my body. starting to arise, which means that I'm transitioning. I'm transitioning from this need for deep rest into the inner spring energy. I promised myself I'm going to take it slow so that I don't burn out. So I'm moving slowly as I come out of what has been a 2-month inner winter. And next month, I'm going to start laying out the details and figuring out what this year-long journey into cyclical awareness is going to look like and what is the best information. And every day in my meditation or when I'm out for walks, I get these hits of like, oh, we got to explore this. And so I have sticky notes all over my wall. And as an idea comes, I just put on a sticky note and I put it on my thoughts vision board wall there. And I'm going to start mapping it all together. And I'm going to create something that I hope to be so powerful, so next level, so who I am growing into as I move into this next phase in my business. So I haven't disappeared. I'm still here. But I wanted to share this episode because I think so many times we are fearful of rest. We know that we need to get 8 hours of sleep a night. And as humans, we often push that. We are living off of 6 or 5 or whatever the case might be. We know that we feel that we have to meet certain measures in our business or our jobs or our careers. We feel like we have to hit so many milestones or be the super parent. And all of this is keeping us running when our body might be really screaming at us to stop and rest. And when we don't listen to it, we get edgy. We start living more and more out of alignment and we get resentful to those in our life. And I start to feel that in May. I start to feel that resentment seeping in. And I was like, okay, this is just like PMS week. This is how I feel in PMS week of just like, there's too much. My head feels overflowing. And it was my cue that I needed to retreat. And so these retreats can be really powerful times for us. So to sum this all up, I wanted to share in some ways that taking these last 2 months off have been really potent and powerful for me, and some takeaways that I've had and it hasn't been glorious. Let's be honest. I will be completely honest. There are times when it's uncomfortable. There's times when my head reels that, you know what, you need to start doing this. You need to get up and just do the thing. You need to get on Instagram because you haven't posted in months, and all that guilt that comes in with feeling like you're letting people down. And so there's been some beautiful takeaways that have really started to appear as I've moved through some of this old dialogue that my mind wants to convince me of, which I really want to share because I really want people to realize there's power and there's potency in rest. And sometimes we may need a month. Sometimes we may need 2 months. And this need for rest isn't because something traumatic happened. It can be. It definitely can be. I know last year I took some time off, and that was because my dad passed away. And then every time a child was born, I also took time off because I needed time for recovery. And so sometimes these bigger life events require us to rest deeper for longer periods of time. But sometimes there is nothing that's off kilter in our life, but yet there is this yearning for a deep pause, for an ability to let go and to not have to care or not have to do or not have to achieve. And so embrace those moments. When you feel that calling, I encourage you to find simple means that you can really begin to lean into that idea of stepping back and trusting that the world's not going to come to an end because you have stepped back. So here's my takeaways. One is that I really started to realize as I navigated some of the negative self-talk that I was operating completely out of alignment in my life. I had deep visions of who I wanted to be as a parent. I have deep visions of who I want to be as an entrepreneur. But the fact of the matter is I wasn't getting the traction in either of those arenas that I wanted because I was too scattered and I was constantly hustling. I was constantly giving my energy and I wasn't caring for myself. And now that I've been able time to care for myself, it's getting clearer and clearer, and it feels easier to be the person that I want to be. The second takeaway that I had was that hustle culture was really starting to keep me overwhelmed. I was getting addicted to hustling. I was getting addicted to doing and feeling like I had to do, feeling this need that I was needed. And so hustle culture, it can be really detrimental to our health. So if you're feeling like you have to hustle, asking yourself, do I really need to hustle, or where can I let go, or where can I ask for help? The third thing is that I was losing parts of me and what I teach about menstrual cycle awareness. And in many ways, it was because I was fearing rest. I was fearing what that would look like to redefine my business or redefine my family life by knowing that rest had to be a priority. Is it okay that my kids weren't in lots of summer camps this year because I didn't want to drive them all over the city? Is it okay that I feel like maybe I have let my mom down a little bit by not being at her house as much as what I maybe should be to help her out now that she's a widow? Am I letting down my customer base? Am I starting over in my career by taking 2 months off? All these fears were very real fears. And I had to realize that those were all fears because I was resisting rest, and that there were some beautiful things that were going to come out. So I've got to learn about me again, and I've got to incorporate tools that I teach and I coach my clients on, but I wasn't using for myself. And so there's this beautifulness of coming back home to the basics. I always encourage women to chart their cycle. And yet I haven't charted my cycle in a long time. I kind of have a general idea of how I feel. I've been doing this enough years that I know day 18, my tendencies to feel this, but to actually sit down every morning and do a check-in of like, how do I feel? I've come back to the basics, and it's been beautiful. My fourth takeaway is that by resting, I was able to address some of these shadow sides of my current state, some of these beliefs that really weren't serving, and how I could let them go. And so sometimes rest gives us these insights, this intuitiveness, this lightness to go into the shadows of what it is that we are trying to navigate or heal from. And then the fifth one was ultimately my creativity has bloomed. Like it is every day I'm getting these different downloads, these different ideas, these different inspirations. I'm at random finding podcast episodes where it just, the discussion aligns so deeply with what I need to hear that day that it just sparks so many aha moments for me. So by us taking moments to rest, we're really allowing our creative side to come through in a really beautiful way. And then lastly, my last big takeaway, and I think this has been a really big one for me this time, is that I'm redefining my life on my terms. And there's so much empowerment in that. And I've known this. I've known this on my health journey as I've navigated different health concerns, whether that be fertility issues, whether that be cervical abnormalities, whether that being, high-risk pregnancies. I've always known that when I sit back and I choose to listen to my body, I end up radically defying what I've been taught or told, and magic happens every time. I became pregnant when I was never supposed to get pregnant. I don't have cervical cancer. I end up having 3 babies full term and did not lose any of those pregnancies. All these things are like the outcomes, they're the reminders to me that when I defy what someone's told me as the hardcore truth and really listen to my body, I end up usually defying the advice, going my own way, and everything turns out beyond what I could have imagined. And so I'm really trusting as I take this time for me that yes, I'm not present, but you know what? Maybe people don't want to hear me right now. Maybe people don't want to hear what I have to share right now. Maybe people need a break from me. Maybe the world just needs to integrate a little bit of what they've been learning from me before I go deeper. There's so many reasons why this can be really beneficial, and to let go of some of the fears of how this was going to impact my business. And honestly, my children and I have become so close, and we're making such great memories that these are things that this is what life was about. This for me was what life was about. And so it's getting back to my core values again. So I highly encourage everyone that if your body's asking you to rest, and know and trust that when you get these urges, it's just because you're going through that cyclical rhythm again. That cyclical rhythm that your body really does understand and know, because it has it every cycle, every month. It feels the pulsations of all 4 seasons. It feels that when we go through these bigger events where it requires a little bit more expenditure or a little bit more retreatness. So just know that if your body's asking for it, it's probably because it's feeling or it's remembering a certain rhythm and the medicine that's in that rhythm. And this is probably one of the most beautiful reasons why getting to know your cycle, understanding how you feel in all 4 phases, will really help you have more self-compassion and more capacity in your life when we're experiencing a bigger lens of this vibration of what we feel in our menstrual cycle. We are cyclical, and there's cycles all around us, and these cycles are interacting. We are cycles within cycles. And so when we get to know ourselves so deeply on that intimate level of our menstrual cycle, we can then take that in to these pulsations of our life cycles, of events in our life, into the quarters of the year, into the environmental seasons. We can get playful and get curious, and we really can find our medicine that will allow for balance, wholeness, and attunement into our truest version of who it is that we are striving to become in this world. So I hope you found this helpful. And if anything, I hope you walk away with knowing that I have not forgot about any of you. I've needed to pause, and I didn't know why. And now I have so much clarity as to why. So the power of rest, it's a potent one, my friends. It is one that is healing. It is one that is informative, and it's one that is transformational. So I encourage you to embrace rest and let go of any fear that you may have around it. Are you excited about aligning to your cycle? If so, make sure that you subscribe to this podcast and like the episode if it really resonated with you. Until next time, remember, womb wisdom equals connection to self, which ultimately equals inspired living.